Today's story is Moby-Dick by Herman Melville. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to stay updated with our latest stories. Your support helps us create more amazing content. And now, let's dive into today's story. Moby-Dick, Herman Melville. The narrator, Ishmael, begins his story by recounting how he decided to join a whaling ship to escape boredom and the pressures of daily life. He travels to Nantucket, the renowned whaling town, where he stays at a strange inn and meets Queequeg, a Polynesian harpooner. Initially frightened by Queequeg's odd appearance and extensive tattoos, Ishmael soon forms a strong friendship with him. Ishmael and Queequeg join the crew of the Pequod, a whaling ship captained by the enigmatic Ahab. Ahab is a man obsessed with the great white whale Moby-Dick, who had previously cost him his leg in a past voyage. After several days at sea, Ahab finally appears on deck, declaring to the crew that their true mission is not just hunting ordinary whales but tracking down Moby-Dick and exacting revenge. The crew consists of diverse personalities, including Starbuck, the religious and rational first mate who opposes Ahab's reckless obsession, Stubb, the cheerful second mate, and Flask, the third mate. Ishmael describes life aboard the ship, learning the whaling trade, which involves using small boats and powerful harpoons to strike deeply into a whale's body, as well as strong ropes to wear the whale down until it surrenders. Ishmael details how the crew locates whales by observing the water for spouts of mist from their blowholes. Once a whale is spotted, Ahab and his crew set off in small boats, quietly approaching their prey before launching harpoons and using ropes to reel the massive creature toward the ship. Once killed, the sailors extract precious oil from the whale's blubber, boiling it in large cauldrons aboard the ship. The sailors follow strange rituals, some reflecting their belief in superstitions and maritime legends. Before each voyage, they offer sacrifices to the sea god for a successful hunt. They also drink a strong liquor before each whale hunt, believing it grants them courage and strength. Some even believe that spotting a particular seabird is a bad omen and may refuse to set sail if they see one. The Pequod faces violent storms and eerie events, but the most unsettling moment occurs when a mysterious Latin American sailor named Fedallah appears among the crew. Fedallah instills fear among the sailors with his silent demeanor and deep, secretive eyes. He prophesies that Ahab will not die until he sees a floating coffin, a prediction that some crew members take seriously while others mock. He also foretells the ship's doom and that Moby-Dick will be the last thing Ahab ever sees. Despite these warnings, Ahab's determination to hunt the whale only grows stronger, leading some to believe that Fedallah is a harbinger of fate. After months of searching, the crew finally spots Moby-Dick for the first time, but the whale escapes after a fierce battle. The crew pursues him using 3 whaleboats, with Ahab leading the attack. They chase Moby-Dick at full speed as he attempts to flee, but the whale suddenly turns and begins to fight back ferociously. Moby-Dick thrashes the water violently, creating massive waves that hinder the boats. He attacks with incredible speed, destroying one of the boats and throwing some sailors into the ocean. The crew attempts to wound him with harpoons, but his thick skin prevents deep penetration. Queequeg manages to strike him in the side, but this only enrages the whale further. Moby-Dick charges toward Ahab's boat, trying to smash it. At the last moment, Ahab and his crew narrowly avoid the attack, but the whale dives beneath the surface and vanishes momentarily. Suddenly, he emerges beneath one of the boats, lifting it into the air before crushing it with his powerful jaws. Some sailors miraculously survive, while others are dragged into the depths. After hours of battle, Moby-Dick dives into the sea and escapes, leaving the exhausted and furious crew behind. This only fuels Ahab's obsession further, making him more isolated and irrational as he pushes his crew beyond their limits in pursuit of the white whale. Starbuck attempts to reason with Ahab, reminding him that the ship and its crew are not mere instruments of personal revenge but a great responsibility that must be taken seriously. He warns Ahab that his obsession with avenging himself against Moby-Dick will only lead to destruction, and that the crew is growing increasingly fearful and anxious. However, Ahab, resolute in his pursuit of the white whale, fiercely rejects Starbuck's advice, believing that this confrontation is his inevitable destiny. As tension rises, strange occurrences begin to unfold aboard the Pequod. Some sailors mysteriously disappear, further fueling the crew's terror and paranoia. Did they fall overboard? Or is something else lurking in the shadows? These disappearances add an element of mystery to the story, reinforcing the sense that the ship is sailing toward a tragic fate. It becomes increasingly clear that Ahab does not see Moby-Dick as just a whale, but as a symbol of his fate, something he is destined to face, no matter the consequences. This obsession blinds him to all voices of reason, even those of his closest officers. As the Pequod nears its unknown destination, a violent storm strikes, threatening to sink the ship. The wind howls, massive waves toss the vessel like a leaf in a tempest, and the sky blazes with lightning in a terrifying spectacle. Amid this natural chaos, the crew is torn between their fear of disaster and their blind obedience to Ahab's commands. During the storm, Starbuck makes one last attempt to persuade Ahab to abandon this journey before it is too late, warning him that even nature itself seems to be trying to stop him. But Ahab, driven by his madness, sees the storm as yet another test of his resolve, an omen that he is close to his final confrontation with the white whale. He stands at the bow of the ship, defying the wind and lightning, proclaiming that nothing will stop him from pursuing Moby-Dick. After the storm subsides, as the crew struggles to regain their balance, Moby-Dick suddenly emerges from the depths, his massive tail crashing against the waves in a legendary display. The white whale radiates an aura of awe, like a mythical beast rising from the ocean's depths to seek revenge. Though terror grips the sailors, they rush to prepare the whaling boats, compelled by Ahab's unyielding obsession. The men lower themselves into the small boats, armed with harpoons and ropes, while Ahab watches them with eyes burning with fury and determination. Starbuck remains aboard the Pequod, unable to stop what has become inevitable. The end is near, and the crew is heading toward its doom. At dawn, the final chase begins. Ahab leads the boats himself, with the rest of the crew following, all aware that this moment will decide their fate. Moby-Dick glows in the sunlight, immense, powerful, an embodiment of nature itself, gliding through the waves with an almost deliberate grace, seemingly indifferent to the enemy surrounding him. Ahab, his eyes wild with obsession, raises his harpoon and shouts, "Now, you accursed whale, we shall see who prevails." With a sudden mighty swing of his tail, Moby-Dick sends one of the boats soaring into the air before it crashes down, its crew meeting their fate in the churning sea. Some sailors hesitate, but Ahab roars at them, urging them to press on. Harpoons are thrown, but Moby-Dick, with his massive body, snaps the ropes and escapes time and time again, as if mocking their futile attempts. Then, in a swift and devastating attack, the whale lunges at the second boat, capsizing it and drowning all aboard. Panic grips the remaining crew, but Ahab remains unwavering, clutching his final harpoon. Gripping the harpoon tightly, Ahab locks eyes with the whale, as if staring into the face of his own fate. With a final, desperate cry, he shouts, "To hell with you!" He hurls the harpoon with all his might, embedding it deep into Moby-Dick's flesh. But in a furious counterattack, the whale charges directly at the Pequod, ramming into its hull with a single earth-shattering strike. The ship is mortally wounded, and as it begins to sink, Ahab fails to notice that the harpoon's rope has entangled around him. As Moby-Dick dives into the abyss, Ahab is dragged along, bound by the very obsession that led to his downfall. The Pequod sinks beneath the raging sea, and the desperate cries of the crew fade into the ocean's depths. The ship, which once carried the mad dream of killing Moby-Dick, is reduced to scattered wreckage swallowed by the waves. In the end, only one man survives: Ishmael, who clings to Queequeg's floating coffin, the very object that now becomes his lifeboat. He drifts alone in the open sea, awaiting his fate, until a passing ship rescues him, making him the sole witness to this tragedy of obsession and death. The moral of the story: Moby-Dick offers a profound meditation on human obsession and the destructive nature of vengeance. It reveals that nature is far greater than man, and that blind pursuit of revenge leads only to ruin. The sea remains a silent witness to a doomed adventure, one that could have had no other end but annihilation.